Businesses that embrace change and innovation achieve a 39% greater year-on-year increase in revenue compared to their industry average, let alone those that fight innovation compared to their industry average. But it also found that in 70% of businesses, our natural human fear of change blocks innovation. But did you know our human of change actually blocks our ability to lead ourselves and our teams through times of innovation, change and disruption? So, when we've got that fear mode coming up in our brains, it actually blocks us from, all those wonderful Rabo leadership values that we saw last night. So in my professional business, when I'm not just mucking around and emceeing, that sort of thing, I talk about resilience, helping people be more resilient through times of change. If I'm going to talk about resilience, I should define it for you. What I call resilience is your baseline peace of mind through stressful times. About 25 years of research have shown us that your resilience is about 50% genetic, so blame your mum and dad, 10% events, 10% what happens to you, 10% life, 10% work, and about 40% how we respond to what happens to you, how you respond to events. But the good news is there are proven strategies that anyone can learn to improve that 40%. So that's what I talk about when I'm working with businesses and that sort of thing. Who am I and how dare I have the gall to bring this sort of stuff up with you? Quick story, about 15 years ago now, I was walking around Kingston upon Thames, for those who know it, in Greater London, walking around with, those baby Bjorn things you can get? You were like, where you strap like a boy to your chest. No, don't strap a boy to your chest. That's just weird. I had a 6-week-old baby boy strapped to my chest. Don't strap a boy to your chest. That's just wrong. I'm just giggling because the kid who was 6 weeks old at the time, he's now 15, and I'm picturing him still strapped to my chest, just going, "Oh, Dad, isn't this getting a bit weird?" So, in my head, that's really funny. Just not out there, and that's okay. So I'm walking around Kingston upon Thames with this 6-week-old baby boy strapped to my chest. Walked into Marks and Spencer. It's like the English version of David Jones. And this beautiful big West Indian woman on the till looked me up and down, just must have picked me as a new dad and one, looked me up and down, just went, "You look tired." In this beautiful, deep mellifluous, imagine like Darth Vader with a West Indian accent voice, just gorgeous. And it was like she just flicked this whinge switch on the back of my head. It's like, "I have no idea how tired I am. With 150 books, he's nothing like the freaking books. I'll tell you that for nothing." And this lady's just grinning at me, letting me go, And I wasn't stopping it. "He's not sleeping, the wife's not sleeping, I'm not sleeping. It's coming out here, it's coming out there." In the end, she just held up a hand like this and just said, "You wait till he crashes your car." Little children, little problems. Big children, big problems. And this tiny little moment, you go, so we all walk through life trying to kid ourselves and each other that we've got life sorted, thank you very much, I don't need your help. But my defences were down. I was so tired, my defences were down. And this beautiful woman just picked me up and mentored me and totally changed the way I viewed early fatherhood. And that's what led me to start writing this book series that I've got out there called What I Wish I Knew, where I asked people if you could go back and give your younger self one bit of advice about whatever that book's about, what would it be? And the point of that for you guys, I've interviewed some cancer survivors, I've interviewed some depression survivors, I've interviewed some World War II survivors, I've interviewed some 9/11 survivors, I've interviewed a Buddhist nun who works with prisoners on death row in Los Angeles, some amazing, amazing people from all over the world. And when you ask that many people that question about if you give your younger self some advice, several familiar themes start coming up again and again and again. Obviously one of them is stay away from your cousins, but... Too early for that? All right, no worries, we'll get there. When you ask that many people, how to get to here, how to get to the 80th birthday and be sitting there hand in hand with someone you adore, looking back on your life with a big satisfied smile instead of a heart full of regrets. When you ask that many people that question, they all say it boils down to this. They all say it boils down to being able to do pain well. And look back on your own life. You can handle those times when you're dumped in the deep end and your previous life experience hasn't prepared you for who you need to be and where you need to go to move forward. You handle those times well, the good times kind of look after themselves, don't they? And so in business, that becomes do change well. And everyone says the key to doing change well and living a great life is just this: fear less. get out of it, be more daring. That's why I think that's why they got me on here to speak to you guys today, because it's all about be a bit more daring. Avoid those Neanderthal fear responses that are just lurking around inside our brains, holding us back from living a much bigger life. Actually, the 15-year-old that I was telling you about, he said, Dad, Rabobank, they'll be all hit with social media. Hit them with a hashtag. So he made you a hashtag. Oh. I'll tell him he stunk up the place, all right, no worries. But the number one thing everybody says about how to live a really great life, and it's so appropriate for you, and if you want your business to have life and if you want to have a great life, is just this. Life is change. And please understand what I'm saying. I'm not saying isn't life full of change? Isn't change such a big part of life? No, life is change. Change is the very nature of existence. Put your hand up if you would like life. Put your hand up if you'd like to be alive. Put your hand up if you won't raise your hand no matter what I ask from up here this morning. It's like a few people at the back going, nah. If you want to be alive, you have to accept this. This is the Oxford English Dictionary definition of the word life. The condition that distinguishes animals and plants from inorganic matter, including the capacity for growth, reproduction, functional activity, and continual change preceding death. Continual change till the day you die. Continual change. So that's what life is. Don't believe me? Get out your driver's license. Have a look at it. The only reason you're here with us today is that you don't look that hot anymore. Continual change. And when you accept that life is change, you have to accept the flip side of that. And that's this. When you refuse to change, you don't hold on to the past, you just lose the future. Put your hand up if you've got kids. Put your hand up if you've got kids. Leave your hand up if when you had kids, you had a birthing plan, all worked out with the midwives. Leave your hand up if your birth went exactly like your birthing plan. Usually 3 or 4 in a room this size. It's such a great metaphor for life, because life never works out as you plan. But as long as you keep your health, it kind of works out, doesn't it? My wife's an accident emergency nurse, so her birthing plan was no doctors, no medical intervention, no doctors anywhere near me. So we were booked in for the midwife-led unit attached to the hospital, but not in the hospital. So it was the big birthing pool, that big spa bath you see people giving birth in sometimes. You see women giving birth in sometimes, it's not people. And it was all very nurturing and herbal. There were dream catchers up on the walls and pastel colours and motivational quotes and, electric candles so the gas wouldn't explode and all that sort of stuff. And so we arrive at the hospital, we have enough food to last 3 days and enough Enya to last a week. Because my wife just loves the smooth, easy listening sounds of Enya, and I freaking hate the smooth, easy listening sounds of Enya. But I love my wife, it's totally her show. Let's bring those 37 Enya CDs, my darling, as it was at the time. So we turn up at the hospital, sadly within 15 minutes of getting there, undiagnosed breech baby. So the baby's the right way up instead of upside down. So, we think we're going over here to the chanting and the birthing and the meditating and the splashing and everything. Within 45 minutes getting to the hospital, we're here. We're in the operating theatre and my wife is numb from the chest down and the surgeon's about to open her up and do an emergency Caesar. Now, I think the anaesthetist could tell that Ali was quite upset by this, because he leans down and whispers into her ear and says, Mrs. Wilson, would you like me to put the radio on during the procedure? Would you like some music during the operation? Now, Ali has these gorgeous big blue eyes, just looks up at me with this angelic look of intent and just said, wouldn't it be a sign if Enya came on the radio? And again, I'm not an idiot, I love my wife. It's just yes, darling, it would. So my wife is desperately hoping for a little bit of this. Maybe a bit of this. Definitely everyone's favourite bit of this. This song, at this point in the song, is what came out of the stereo. First cut is the deepest. Baby, I know the first cut is the deepest. Ali's an A&E nurse, has a very dark sense of humour. She's just killing herself laughing. But the poor anaesthetist thought she was crying, so he's frantically trying to turn it off, rip the plug out of the wall and everything. But we realised that our real plan was to get one of these little guys. And there he is when he's about 5-6 minutes old and they've just handed him to me. But you have to understand, that's what life is. All life is full of moments just like that, where you think you're going over this way, all of a sudden you're going over this way. Now I know in banking, a lot of facts and figures, work with a lot of numbers, so I made you a graph. Absolutely no scientific basis whatsoever, but it's a graph. Because that's what life's like, isn't it? Every 2 to 5 years, life comes along, just kicks you in the teeth, doesn't it? That's why I changed it to side swipes per year. That's what life is. Every 2 to 5 years, you're overwhelmed with, unexpected relationship breakdown, unexpected financial hardship, unexpected illness in your family, sadly, unexpected death in our extended family. That's what the nature of life is. So people who, deliberately get out of their way to try and make next week the same as last week, next year the same as last year, psychological studies have shown they don't handle the true nature of humanity very well. But people who deliberately, like Andrew was saying, stop playing the same game all the time, they handle the side swipes that are coming all our way as part of being a human being. They handle those much better. And so the trick to it is just this: let that go. Because we've always done it that way is no reason to keep doing anything. I learnt this. I'm actually a pharmacist by training. I was did my pharmacy degree at Sydney University. Lovely old university here in Sydney. When I was there, it was about 140 years old. When I was there, it's about 145 years old now. And when I was there, a really good friend of mine, about 3 months before our final exams, really good friend of mine realised he was going to fail his final exams. He just knew he was going to fail. So he's frantically searching around for ways to get that special consideration, get a bit of extra time to study. And he stumbled on the Sydney University bylaws, which hadn't been changed for about 80 years at the time because it was tradition, because they'd always been that way. And he turned up to our final exams with a Justice of the Peace certified extract of the Sydney University bylaws and successfully applied to have his exams postponed because the university hadn't complied with its own charter and provided him with a tankard full of ale with which to do his final exams. And he got out of it. They had to let him out of it. But when they let him back, in about 8 weeks' time, they let him come back. They fined him $200 for not wearing his ceremonial sword to the exam. Please, 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 if you want to be a more daring business, let that go, okay? So many people gingerly tiptoe through life's ups and downs, then sigh with relief as they safely arrive at their grave. Please, don't let that be you. Thank you. Thank you.